deal with the warrior poet, spitting out the facts, artillery loaded, perfecting our craft, yeah you know we devoted. I know what I want, so I'm staying focused. You hitting up my line, it's on do not disturb. Don't need a fool who can't even back up his words. Had to burn bridges and take different roads. You might think I'm toxic, but homie, I got goals.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Warrior Poet Show. This is your host, the Lizard King. Alrighty, guys, hope everyone's doing fine. So last week we were supposed to have a podcast. We did not. I know. But listen, guys, I would much rather not speak for 9 hours straight, although I could, about nonsense. I don't want to do that. So I've definitely been feeding my mind, gaining some extra wisdom. Though you only scratch the surface when you're on the path of wisdom acquisition, so you're better off just going with the flow and grabbing what you can, because when you're really digging and digging, you sometimes get frustrated at the fact you get zilch, nada. So I could say that I didn't get much, but I did start reading my book very thoroughly, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And this book is like a Bible, It's interesting because when you search out the inner depths of your composition, your internal self, you find nothing. You find darkness. You find almost like an abyss that stares back at you, So I don't know, guys. To me, I've had a revelation. And the reality is that I'm very, very much disappointed in culture, in my country. Sure, the world. The world's always been chaos, though. But man has never been seen in such a deplorable state. So what is the cause of all this? Is it degeneracy? The times, the modern man just doesn't have any self-discipline, self-control? Is he just gonna be a slave to his emotions like a freaking woman? Is he? Or worse, to his desires, to his attachments? Is he gonna allow his flesh to dictate whether he eats or not? Is he gonna allow his flesh to dictate whether he stays honorable or not? I see everybody using the flesh as a cop-out. Not just man, but men. Men are a special thing to me because they're my brothers. And they're fathers as well. They're leaders. They're builders. So, we need man. Whatever you are, whatever I am, it's anything but, if I'm being honest with you guys. I've come to realize, once I read the book thoroughly, without any emotion, without any ego, without any preconceived notions, pride, blah, 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 blah. Wow. I've reduced myself to the female kind. I'm no better than a woman. Once you read the book, not just like, I'm just gonna read one passage. It does say, a world for longer or shorter time. For him, even death has no terrors. And that's not how it works. You have to take in each word because that's how profound this guy is. You know, you have to do your research on the guy. You know, I think that nobody would listen to a fool whether he had a crown or not. So all the foolish kings are not remembered, much less recorded in time. But there's been many sages, many wise men throughout time that also got forgotten with time. Time. Such a precious thing. Time. Though time does not change, we change in time. Time is like an ever moving. No. We're the ones moving in time. It's like we're the sailors and time is the ocean, you know? Will we reach our destination? Of course. Everyone does. Whether you're sailing north, east, west, south. Oh, south? It doesn't matter. You will arrive sooner or later. Time is that precise. Every king who I've studied thus far, King David from the Bible, King Solomon, not just from the Bible, but from a lot of different other outlets and avenues, Solomon is regarded as a wise man, a powerful man, a wealthy man, but wise above all else. And so Marcus Aurelius was emperor, right? So you see what I'm trying to say here? It's not enough to get the coins. It's not enough to get the crown. It's not enough to get the power. What good does it have you? What good does it do you to have all those things if you're nothing but a fool? You ought to give all those things to a beggar who has a thinking mind. He'd do much better with those things than you would. You'd only destroy yourself, if not the world. That's why fools are in the ground begging for their daily bread. Whereas kings, they can eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. And who are they begging, if not demanding? They're demanding of life opulence. They're demanding of life the most prestigious, the most glorious of things, of experiences. But it's usually kings like this guy that get remembered because they don't eat and eat and eat, and they don't demand the greatest and best. They understand that you can be a walking vagabond in a palace. He understood. I say they because he learned from other people, you know. It's not just like he woke up one day and it's like, oh, I'm Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic. Which, by the way, let's talk about the term Stoic because I wanna say something. This is the whole point of this particular episode, if I'm being honest. Stoicism. Because right off the bat, I'll say this. I find it to be a disgrace, furthermore, on all of men, including myself, to have adopted the concept of Stoicism and to call it a virtue and to call it something to attain. as if it was like a martial art or a degree that you need to build a skyscraper. You're not going to be a master architect. It's not rocket science. And yet everyone's falling short of the mark. That mark. I'm not even talking about other status quos or whatever. Marcus Aurelius painted a very clear picture of what it is to have honor, dignity, respect for yourself and others, virtue, and above all else, masculinity. He broke it down for all of you, brothers, what it is to be a man and how to act like a man. If you didn't have a father, if you didn't grow up like with a father, if you were out in the streets banging it up with other fucking fools like you, smoking, drinking, again, banging it up with other fools, then you ought to read that book. And if you grew up with a father, read that book with him. Because chances are that your father, no offense, is also falling short of the mark. Otherwise, you wouldn't be falling short of the mark. And so it's time to teach each other. It's time to remember. It's time to stop, because this is what we're doing as a whole. We are more or less being complacent with ourselves. Oh, I have a 6-pack. We'll get us 8-pack. Oh, I'm a bodybuilder. We'll build an even bigger body. Oh, I'm a boxing world champion. We'll get more titles. You see, it never ends. But you guys have set up such low ceilings that once you reach it, you kick your feet up and say, I'm right at home. As if you did something to be proud of. Again, I can say this, that, and other. I can say multiple things about men, but it's deplorable, the state in which we're all in. I mean, look at me. I have a thin, weak disposition. And it has haunted me my whole life. You know? This is the disposition of a weak, thin man. Because I have been weak. And therefore, I didn't grow the muscles. I didn't man up at the time I needed to man up. I didn't grow up at the time I needed to grow up. I didn't do the push-ups when I needed to do the push-ups. Figuratively and literally speaking, I have been in bondage. I have been living in Neverland, so to speak. I have been Peter Pan without growing up, without thinking that I needed to. And yet, now I can't help but feel like a complete infidel. Like a bastard. I feel like Sure, yeah, I betrayed myself. I transgressed against myself, sure, we'll go there. But I betrayed my Lord. I betrayed my God. And when you do stuff like that, you cannot forgive yourself easily. But you must. In fact, don't even think about it to the point that you need to forgive yourself. Move on. Stay steadfast. Stay on the path. Stay on the path. Because it's very important for you to be on the path. To stay on the edge. Because as a man, you have a job. And your job is to give your gift to the world. Not to your wife. I've had this conversation with my best friend and the whole wide world. And I mean, we all have our thing, you know, that we prioritized. We're parents, you know, so we love our children, you know. But what I say is, fuck them. Fuck them all. I know for a fact that I am very much needed and I'm very much important. But if I'm trifling with homework, if I'm trifling with taking out the trash, if I'm trifling with a trifling woman, it's not going to work. I'm not going to be on my edge. I'm not going to be manly. And I'm certainly not going to be giving my gift to the world. I'm not going to be living my purpose. Call me selfish. I don't care. At this point, I really don't care. Stoicism is not a real concept, you guys. It's somebody came up with it, but it's not valid. Whoever came up with it, I'll come out and say it, it's a beta male. It's a loser. It's somebody that cannot admit to himself that they've been falling short of the mark. I read this whole entire book, and you know what I've come to realize? He is just telling you to be a man, not a stoic. Stoicism doesn't exist. You're either a man or you're not. And in fact, I'll even go one step further. You're either a superior man or you're ordinary. Ordinary because, man, you are not. Man, you are not. You are not a man if you're just an ordinary individual. Just being tossed around by the wind like a fucking trash can. Trash bag. Like a feather in the wind, really. Like, it's pathetic. Pathetic is something that I myself can say because I've been there. I've been that trash bag floating around through here and there like a desolate vagabond with nowhere to go and nowhere to be. And it feels pathetic. You look at yourself in the mirror and you say, there it is. My pathetic self. But even that reflection is not you. Masculinity, though, if you can tap into it, if you can feel it, if you can cultivate it and grow it, it's a fire, it's a flame that belongs to up above, to the divine. I cannot explain it. It's spirit. It's spirit, and its element is fire, and it never ends. It never stops. You know, no matter how much you try to stifle it and you try to turn it off or whatever. I mean, that's what happened in Greece, really, and with these guys, the Marcus Aurelius. I mean, I've done my research on Marcus Aurelius. His record is not that good. I think he was more in the mental space. That's why it's so profound what he says. You know, I've come to realize that if you're living too much here, your external starts to fall apart. Though you're organizing things internally very, very well, and that's granted. I think that holds more value than having your bookshelf done nicely. But nevertheless, the bookshelf needs to be done at some point too, you know. And I feel like perhaps Mr. Aurelius decided that his mental held more value than ruling the people. I don't know. I wasn't there. So maybe public opinion wasn't all that good, but he did do good. You know, I don't know. I wasn't there again. But I repeat myself once again. Stoicism is not a real term. If you're studying how to be a stoic, you're studying how to be a man. And if you're studying how to be a man, just know that you're just a scared little boy, or worse, a woman. You've converted yourself into a woman. It's 2024, guys. Get with it. It's the revolution of the one world government. And the only way they can implement the one world government, the one world religion, and the one world currency is if there's no man. See, you don't have to chop off your genitalia and call yourself Stacy to cease being a man. On the contrary, I would even argue that that's very, very brave and masculine of you to do. Vaginoplasty, or I don't care too much about that department. it's it's baffling to me that men are really, really that messed up. You know that they're so in a trance. They've been mind manipulated to to the point that they don't even know what they are, brother. You're not acting like a man, but you're certainly a man. You don't have to. I don't know. That's we'll leave that one for another because the Olympics. The Olympics. If you know, you know. I mean, people are watching the sports and everything, but they don't even realize what they did in the inaugurational ceremony. It was blasphemous. It was disgusting. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good look. Whoever, look, I'll even say this. You know, compare 2024 Olympics to Berlin's and Germany's. I mean, Hitler's Olympics was supremely better than ours, or well, not ours, but Paris's. In Berlin, back in the day when Hitler was hosting the whole show, it had dignity, it had class, and it was devoid of vulgarity. I don't know what's going on nowadays. I do know what's going on, but you guys don't. So the question is more or less open ended. What is going on nowadays? Maybe I'll reveal a little bit of what's going on. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll let you guys figure it out on your own, you know. Understand this. I say this with a humble heart, you know, not a condescending. Because ignorance has been the main weapon they use against my people, you know. And who's my people? God fearing, neighbor loving, enemy loving individuals. You know, that's it. You know, you love your neighbor, you love your enemy, and you fear God. You're in my team. Simple as that. Oh, you're a Muslim? Oh. As long as you have those three categories, get over here, punk. Get over here, ya punk. Bring all of your Allah loving friends and bring them over here so I can give them a big old hug. Oh, you have that Star of David on your neck? Get the front door out of here. I'm just kidding. Get over here. Give me a big hug, you know. And it just go down the list. As long as you have those three qualities to your heart, soul, and spirit, I can at the very least respect that, you know. And that is essentially the equation, the formulation, the alchemical process or ingredients that you need in order to become enlightened. It's not reading Marcus Aurelius. You will get insight, you will get knowledge, but you're not going to get wisdom to the point that you become enlightened. You only get wisdom when it's bestowed onto you. And when it's bestowed onto you, you know you are worthy. And how are you worthy? By loving your neighbor, by loving your enemy, and having a healthy fear for the Lord, which is just another way of saying I respect you to the point that I'm not going to fucking go against your word. But to say the least, I am very much disappointed in myself, okay? So I read Marcus Aurelius, and we've already discussed this. He is just explaining to everyone how to be genuinely a man, how to be masculine, how to be honorable. And one of the things that I've come to understand about not just the philosophy of Stoicism, but the philosophy of peace of mind. Because mind you, a female, a woman, is usually the one with the archaic, chaotic, you know, the garbage in the mind, you know. It is the man who has a more cold and piercing perspective for everything. And so why am I looking around and I just see nothing but haughty individuals with first of all, you have these guys crossing their legs as if they were like some sensual character. Dude, you look gay. You look like a fag. And I'm I I'll be honest with you. I am not homophobic, and I think that, I mean, I don't have to get into my own personal, you know, relationships to oh, see, I have a gay friend. I don't have to do that. I don't even have to have gay friends to validate my point, which is I hate nobody, much less the gay people, much less the transgenders. I think they who are genuinely in this particular category would agree with me, which is that there have been these political individuals who have weaponized the topic, and the group of people who are being portrayed as LGBT whatever are nothing but degenerate pedophiles, you know. Um, Not all transgenders are degenerate pedophiles. Not all gay people are transgender pedophiles. But all pedophiles are transgender, gay, LGBTQ degenerates. See, that's the thing. Because you, the gay man, you, the transgender, have been corrupted. You have been polluted. You are dirty. You're living in sin. And you're living in darkness. That's why you cannot see who you are. That's why you cannot see that despite you having a dick and balls, you standing up to pee and still wondering whether you're a man or a woman is the devil at work. Hallelujah. The warrior poet is a religious podcast now. It's always been. It's the rising of the Son of Man. It's the rising of the Christos. The real anointing. The real baptism is happening before you guys. So there you guys have it. I'm doing something very sacred, something very special, a ritual, for a lack of a better word, for you all to behold, for you all to believe, because you guys don't believe. You guys are so cooked in the head, because biblically speaking, it is said, blessed are those who believe. Blessed are those who have faith and have not seen. I have not seen nothing. I have declared myself an agent of darkness, a blind, wandering wraith, with nothing else to give but this information. Christ is an essence at this point. You guys want to take it as a folklore legend? Mind you, I don't know particularly when this guy was roaming around, but I think it was in the ADs, you know. So it was a while back. You guys believe in Plato, you guys believe in Socrates, you guys believe in Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, but Christ, which basically happened last weekend, historically speaking. I don't know, there's not enough historical, the Bible has been tampered with, blah, 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 blah. You know how I know? You know how I believe, or how I've come to really, really have faith in Christ? It's not just because I prayed and he touched me and I started feeling electric, and then the next day my prayers were answered. That's low level stuff. Anybody could have that same experience and interpret it however they want, you know? You could even end up thinking that you yourself are some kind of God. And certainly people do, you know? You pray a little bit and things start going your way, and your humility starts fading with it, you know? So that's all I'll say on the matter. I know that God, Christ, Yeshua, HaMashiach, Yeshua HaMashiach. I know he's the real deal, and I know he's the boss. And I know that above him, only one, which is the creator of it all. I know that he is my God, my Lord, my Savior, because the devil keeps smearing his name. Because the devil does everything to cloud his grace and glory. And he just wants to give Allah his praise. He just wants to give your Moses, your who's the other ones? Your Krishna, your Buddha. He wants to give them all your praise and glory because though they were prophets, though they were at the time they were agents of good, of purity, of elevation. So they were essentially enemies of the enemy. But now the evil one has been able to distort their legend, their story, and deify them, which was never the point. There's actually plenty of evidence to show that not even angels have that kind of ego and vanity. Like there's been certain excerpts in the Bible where an angel appears. Probably Archangel Gabriel. He's more or less the mouthpiece in the whole grand scheme. And and when you see an angel, they're not like us with wings. They're something else. And when you see them in their glory and their flaming light, all you can do is just be like astonished and bewildered. But at the very fundamental aspect of it all, just in mere admiration, and you wanna bow, so you do. And so, well, at least in the Bible, they did, and they, oh, you, and the angel's like, brother, you need to stop doing that right now. Get up right now. What do you mean? It's because you're so beautiful. No, 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 no. All glory goes to the Lord. You shouldn't be doing that other than for the Lord, God. And even God is not even, spell God backwards and it's just dog. You cannot quantify, you cannot explain what the Father is. Let's just be okay with what the Son is. A man. The perfect man. And so what he's explaining is like, if I could do it, you can. But it's much more deeper because this is biblical again. The power that raised Christ from the grave lives within you currently. So yeah, guys, we are very powerful individuals. We could get into the Anunnaki and talk about that aspect, like the mystical, powerful, what's inside of us. But I'm still decoding a lot of the cryptic messages that the heavens have left for us. But it's probably not gonna be that simple, and I'm probably gonna die trying. What I am also doing is connecting the dots. You have to read this manuscript and then connect it with those ancient tablets that have to do with that one Bible verse that really puts it all together when you look at it from that 1950s movie that was more or less a documentary and drama form, and boom. That's why I didn't do a podcast last weekend. Because I didn't do a podcast last week because I was struggling mentally, guys. I was just shoving so much information into my dome that once everything more or less settled into place and I was able to take a step back and look at what I've done, mentally speaking, I was afraid. And I felt like my mind was shattered. I felt like my my internal thing that holds me together just disappeared, and I just fell apart, internally speaking, of course, right? Because that's the only thing that matters. You guys can see me here with my shirt on at the very least. So at the very least I have a shirt on. So hey, thumbs up to that. But internally we never know. I see you guys on Instagram traveling and working and partying and mirror pictures and selfies with the girls or drinks with the boys. Y'all look happy. But I know that what I see is always going to be alive. These two eyes serve me for very little. I mean, it's just to operate the vehicle. You know what I mean? And so this is a lie. This microphone's a lie. Most of what I say is a lie. Most, because I try to be honest, and when it comes to wisdom, there's no lying, you know. In that topic there's discussions, but once we reach to a final conclusion that's wise and good, then that's called truth. So anyways, I see you guys, and I know most of you guys with the biggest smiles are the ones who are struggling the most. That's fine. I mean, now who am I to judge? You know, I think that we all figure out a way to cope and collapse our consciousness into this 3D reality and call it home. I have never been able to make myself at home. And I mean, seriously, guys, I am not of this world. And neither are you. So why are you making yourself at home? Why are you allowing people to tell you that, yes, this is in fact you? What you see in the mirror every time you brush your teeth in the morning and at night, that's unquantifiably you. Well, can somebody raise their hand and say, I have a question? Why does it all sound like bullshit? The world is flat, the world is not flat. I don't even know anymore. But if I have to start talking wisdom now, in terms of what do I do with this anxiety? What do I do with this collapsing knowledge that is destroying what keeps me together? How do I deal with this? And the answer is quite simple. Stop caring about your humanity, about your carnal desires. Trust me, pleasure is not good, and it serves you not. It is useless. Only those things that are useful and moral in essence are good. Pleasure, by those margins, is anything but good. So you must ask yourself, was I born for pleasure? No, common sense says no. And when you wake up in the morning, as Marcus Aurelius says, with a heavy heart, ask yourself, was I born to just be warm and cozy? Or was I born to be a human and do human things? You guys are so overly attached to your humanity that you cease to be human. That's what I'm trying to say. You guys are so enamored, you men are so enamored with what it is to be masculine, which is just, in your opinion, and I'm talking as a whole, in America, probably around the world now, because it's kind of really turning into a Tower of Babel story, you know, where everybody knows everybody and everybody talks the same language. Google Translate. You men are not understanding that by having sex with a lot of women, by making a lot of money, by driving the fastest car. I mean, this is kind of like the Andrew Tate theme for his message. A lot of muscles. I mean, I could go on the list for things that I personally do cherish and I do care about and I do want. I do lust after. But, see, desire is just a thin veil for what it's hiding behind it, which is lust. Lustful individuals. Me included. But look what it's done to us. It's made us weak. It's made us supple like a baby. Soft. And I only feel alive now only when I'm in the furnace, in the fire. When I'm forging myself as a very sharp blade made out of twisted steel and sex appeal. I've always wanted to say that. You are on the edge when you're on your masculine. And so I say, stop trying to be stoic and be a superior man. Listen carefully, guys. Once you become a superior man, not a stoic individual, a superior man, and you stop being ordinary, you will come to find the fruits of which you have been deprived of. You will find the light in the dark abyss in which you have been imprisoned in. You will quarrel, or you will find yourself with a quarrelsome woman, and you will be able to diffuse the situation, not with your words, but with your actions. Actions that are passionate. Passionate because you are a man, and a man's step is filled with passion. A man's voice is filled with passion. A man's demeanor, though, is cold as ice. And only if you pay attention, only if you really try to penetrate the man, the superior man, will you see that behind that thick ice that he calls his masculinity, there's that deep, burning fire that really is the essence of his core. You're not a liar. You're not being disingenuous. You're just not screaming out loud anymore. You're whispering. You're speaking with dignity. But you don't have to speak loudly no more. You speak and they listen. And so when you act with passion, though, a woman will feel it. And though she herself is engulfed in her own fiery passion, once she feels your fire, it's almost as if it's water that's just satiating her own flames. Let it be your masculine fire that quenches that chaotic and archaic feminine woman. Because at the end of the day, she wants not her own flame, but yours. She wants you to give her your fire, your masculinity. That's why women rave. Why are you? They're testing you. They're trying to see if, because your fire is not like her fire. Her fire is supposed to destroy. Your fire is soothing. Your fire is creative nature, sexual nature. It has the power to thunderbolt a baby into the ether and manifest it into this physical realm. We give a lot of credit to women, and credit is due. They They carry the baby for 9 months, and they give birth to the baby. But the baby didn't come from the mother. Without the father, there's no baby. And that's why we need to not disregard the feminine, for it is divine and beautiful, and it ought to be cherished. And by default, because of their ignorance, because of their lack of insight due to their emotions, and because of what I just explained, their femininity, which is not raw strength, they ought to be protected. Your sister, your mother, your wife, your daughter, everybody who is of the female nature ought to be protected. And if you're, I mean, I'll apologize. I don't care if you got offended because I said the word fag. Like, I stuttered because, yeah, it is an ugly word. If you're gay, we'll protect you too, brother. But I fear like that's basically the cop out for effeminate men. They're saying I'm a woman or I'm gay, or they get convicted as a felon and they go to a woman's prison on the guise that they're transgender. It serves you not, to be honest with you. If you are gay, fine. There's nothing we can do about that. If you're trans, fine. There's nothing we can do about that. But just because you're trans or gay, that does not mean that you ought to be a coward. That you ought to be devoid of honor and pride in the right things. Because when you have pride in your work, when you have pride in your cleanliness and the way you portray yourself, and pretend is very much a appropriate word though, the way you portray yourself in the public arena, all of that matters, and you should hold some pride into it. But just know that if I showered today and I brush my teeth, the way I do it is just in the name of the Lord. Like I'm honoring him. He gave me this, granted. I ought to be taking care of it. If he gives me a house down the street that is desolate and it's in shambles, guess what? I'm gonna know that not only it's a blessing to have that house because it came from the Lord, but it is also a task. It's a challenge from the Lord himself. I need to go in there and I need to clean and I need to make everything pristine because that is the Lord's house. That's why he wants me to do all the renovations, because only I know how to build a house for the Lord. Well, not only I, but that's kind of where I'm getting at this, okay? And once I'm done, I have pride in that because it's for the Lord. It has nothing to do with me at that point, and it never did. I'm only but an instrument. You see, when you paint in a canvas and you're signing it, you don't put paintbrush. You sign it with your name, right? And so when you see pristine, glorious, cleanliness, organizational environments, that's God's signature, Though I was the paintbrush that painted all of this, it was God who was moving the brush. It was he who was leaving a stroke of paint and color each time he moved me and guided me. And I think that's what's going on here in this podcast, guys. I am but a humble servant of you all, as I am of the Lord, so I want to bring something of quality. You guys deserve something of quality. And it's not the production even. It's not even the video quality, audio quality. Uh, it's just the content quality. I am not gonna come out here and start acting like a buffoon to get any kind of traffic or attention. I rather promote this as heavily as possible. I rather speak as truthfully as possible, and just let the chips fall where they may, because I know at the end of the day, it's God's will. And granted, I can speak about X, Y, and Z for 20 years, and if I'm not speaking from the heart, those 20 years would have been a waste of time, you know? So I'd rather talk about what I want to talk about than to get likes and to get. I'm not gonna lie and say that I don't want the likes or the views or whatever, but hey, I think that that's part of the reason why you ought to read Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. So you could get rid of all that pride, so you could get rid of all that need for fame and vanity. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times you tend to get applauded, famous people, really. They tend to get applauded and glorified after death. So it's like that innate desire is akin very much to someone who's upset about the fact that people who lived before you didn't praise you. Praise, you ought to do good deeds, you ought to do what needs to be done, you must do what's in front of you to do, without any hesitation or regard for time, because you ought to do it right, and you ought to do it now. But in the end, praise is futile. You don't need your signature in that piece of artwork. That piece of artwork, though you think you might have painted it, you did not. You did not. I don't want to put too much emphasis on what's going on in the world right now. I'm in my own world, obviously. And look, if I'm coming down with this realization, this, because I'm still digesting it, guys. I kind of wanted to marinate a little bit more in this new information, new consciousness that I have, because otherwise, how do I organize it? How do I speak on it fluently? You know, but I think I'm more or less giving you guys an overview of what's to come, because though I am concerned about Trump and all that jazz and the political state of the country, it doesn't matter. Nothing under the sun matters. You see, the Marcus Aurelius stuff, that's for somebody who really cares about being the superior man. That's for somebody who wants to stop being ordinary. But if you know what I know, you can read that book 100 times and it's not going to change the fact that whether you are a superior man or an ordinary man, time will give you both the same results. And so it gets complicated, and it's hard not to be nihilistic. It's hard not to get depressed. It's hard not to even consider suicide when you come to that realization. It's only because of God. It's only because of his endearing love that those thoughts don't really cross my mind. Ooh, balloons, yay. It doesn't cross my mind. Because I fear my Lord. And this is why you're trained to fear the Lord with your father, with your mother, to respect Mother Nature, to love Mother Nature, to admire Mother Nature. Guys, the family unit has been corrupted. The nuclear family is diminishing by the second. I don't want to have more broken homes under my belt. I already have one. And maybe this is me being a little bit too candid and too honest, but it is true. I was a young man, still am, and I was a boy when I became a father, guys. I was really young, and without getting any further in my own personal life, all I can say is this is the fundamental root of the issue. There's no father in the house. Simple as that. There is no father in the house. Put Papa Bear back in the house, and in the next 5 to 7 years, we're gonna see this country turn from satanic, cult-like adoration for transgenders and Baphomet, and we're gonna flip it around to being Christ-fearing and loving families, neighborhoods, communities, farmers, welders. I mean, we're going to flourish if we really go that route. If you guys listen to the podcast and heed my warning. We're at a crossroads. Either the golden age is upon us or Armageddon is knocking on the door. And it's your choice, though. It's your choice. I mean, I've made mine, and maybe that's why I'm gonna be at a disadvantage because of numbers. But that's fine. I mean, if that's what it's coming down to with you guys, then just know that they can have an army, a legion, and yet they'll still be defeated. My army only has one. And even then, there's an army behind that one that's celestial and divine that I can't even describe. I wouldn't even dare to. Guys, if you ought to be proud of something, be proud of the fact that God lives within you and He wants you in His team. He chose you in particular, and He's using me to let you know that that's the fact. So if you're one of those that believes in serendipities, coincidences, or whatever, or messages from above, then let it be known this is in fact it, a message from above. And to all my transgender listeners, to all my gay listeners, and I think that's about it. I think lesbians fall under the gay category, and everything else is just bogus. Except for the plus at the end, LGBTQ plus, that's for pedophiles. The plus is for pedophiles, just in case you didn't know. So we're not talking about those. I'm just talking about the transgenders and the gays. Both of you guys, man, female, cis woman, but whatever the fuck you guys think, you guys are messing with the English language. You guys are messing with language. And God will be very upset with whoever decided this was a good idea. Simple as that. There is this one transgender, Rebecca. She's a Spaniard. She's a badass. She was a biological man who literally transitioned, chopped it off to a woman. Her story is just outstanding, and it's if you're not really wanting to have a thick skin or a backbone, you might get crushed by her story. It is, and when you look at her, you can tell the world has not been kind, to say the least. I've met people who you see them and you're like, fuck, who did this to you? Please tell me. I mean, that's just wishful thinking at the very least, but yeah, I'm sad. I'm sad when I see you evil people, and even then I get sad at you evil people because you weren't always evil. In fact, you are evil because you're no longer you. You've been shattered and broken one too many times, and the glue that sticks it together is demonic. It's evil. And so therefore you ought to be evil. That's fine. I get it. But look, degeneracy is out there. Lack of masculinity is a fact. Stop being ordinary. I mean, I'm just running through the things because it all comes down to this, which is the pride. The pride in what? Well, you ought to not have pride for anything, but if you do, it ought to be for something good. And having pride in the fact that you're chopping off your genitalia, that you are clearly going through this mental struggle where you don't know if you're a man or a woman. You have pride in your degeneracy, and you have pride on the fact that you let other men sodomize you, you being a man. Don't have pride. Do what you will. Behind closed doors, everyone's allowed to do what they want. Believe it or not. Free will is a legit thing. If your creed, your belief, your way of living is not one to appease the Lord, my God, then by all means. I mean, I'm not here to convert you into Christianity, which, by the way, I don't consider myself a Christian. Not anymore. I was Roman Catholic, Protestant. I never got into the Jehovah Witnesses or the Mormonism. Mormonism is very, very much satanic, you guys. And then you will understand that if you're in a Mormon, or you used to be in the Mormon church and then you decided to get out, and then you read even the King James version, and you're like, oh, what the heck? They literally scrapped everything except what benefited them. King James version is very interesting because King James, speaking of gays, was a fruity son of a gun. He was zesty as hell. He had concubines upon concubines, and all of them were men. He had boyfriends who he really cherished. And yeah, King James of England. That was the guy who decided to rewrite the Bible to his own liking. So, I mean, again, not judging, but when you look at Rebecca's story, you think, okay, she is not going to be a voice of reason. And then she turns out to be a voice of reason. And now I'm concerned because with Rebecca's being the voice of reason, then what the heck is going on with the world? I have Obama telling me to send my daughter to get puberty blockers and vaccines. I have Biden not being able to freaking talk. And then I have cackling Kamala cackling every time she gets on screen or on the podium. They're all clowns. They're all jokes. Jokes of the highest order because I am not laughing. It went over my head. I'm waiting for the punchline still. When does this joke get funny? Because the more we drag this on, the sadder it gets. How many times are we gonna want to watch Biden fall off a bicycle, for crying out loud? And how many times are we going to allow these political oligarchs to put honorable, I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say honorable, but admirable for sure, admirable individuals that I personally think Joe Rogan speaks to hundreds of people on a weekly basis, and most of them are medical, they're in the medical field and they know shit. They're scientists. They're philosophers. They're writers. I mean, this guy talks to everyone. And CNN try to make it seem that this guy was a wackadoodle that just believes in conspiracy theories and that he takes horse dewormer. Ivermectin is not a horse dewormer as a whole. In fact, the medication ivermectin is not even for horses. It's for humans, for crying out loud. And then you have somebody like Trump too, who is, in my opinion, the boss man. He's the real boss man. I mean, I have a boss man in my life. I do. And I've worked so hard to not have that in my life. I've um I've given everybody the bird. Hey, you don't tell me what to do. You don't dictate my life. You don't snap your fingers and tell me to jump and then I'll say how high. It doesn't work like that. But it does, you guys. It was my young buck mentality, that ego that says you know something that they don't. And even if you didn't, who are they to tell you what to do? It was my fatherlessness. There I am getting personal again. Um, no, 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 no. It's just once you find somebody who's worthy as a mentor, as an instructor, as a coach, as a sensei, then you ought to bow your head and in grace. You ought to be grateful to the Lord. He just sent you a blessing. And so I have my boxing coach, and he is the boss man in my life. He is the one that says, do this for 15 minutes, and I do it for 15 minutes. And if he says another 15 minutes, then that's what it's going to be. And if he says that practice is over, then practice is over. You know what I mean? I have found it. And it's not supposed to be found like that. You ought to be born into mentorship with your father. But again, fatherhood is in shambles right now too. Forget about being a good man. Well, how about being a good dad? It's like you guys are leaving a trail of crapola, and your children are growing up in it. Um, the pride in homosexuality and sodomizing each other, the pride in chopping off genitalias, sexual organs, the pride in giving puberty blockers to teenagers and children, um, the pride in evil. Finally, I said it. The pride in the devil is only going to bring even more hell into the world. And I say the world because this isn't even an issue for the country anymore. Look at Paris, it's just gay. Look at Spain, it's just gay. Everyone's gay. But you're a man, I'm a man. We ought to be searching for women. We ought to be searching for wives. I tried the Andrew Tate diet. I tried the Andrew Tate philosophy. I tried the Andrew Tate mentality. And it's empowering, don't get me wrong, to say, fuck you, bitch, go make me a coffee. or suck my dick. Whatever makes you feel bold and masculine and whatever gets you off. But let me tell you something. That's not it either. I love Andrew Tate, and I think he's more or less a comedian when he's in those moods. I think he's actually very very loving and respectful to his females. But I mean, who am I? I'm not there either, so I don't know. I do genuinely respect the guy. I think that's why I'm being such a big advocate of him. But if he ever were to listen to this particular podcast, I think he would agree with me 100% with everything I just displayed and portrayed, and even the fact that I have been honest with you guys about my own disposition, you know. So yeah, thumbs up for that. But I mean, call me old fashioned, but I think I have enough space in my heart for one woman. And anything after that would be more or less gluttony, sexual gluttony, uh, eating more than your fill, so to speak. And you could argue, hey, you're a warlock or you're a king, you're a conqueror. Why not enjoy the spoils? And sure, that's kind of what I grew up on anyway. So I didn't need Andrew Tate to tell me that to go to a buffet and eat that extra plate, even though I'm already shitting myself. Yeah, I mean, I've been there. But when you read Marcus Aurelius, you come to realize that whether you have a kingdom or whether you have rags, and it just doesn't matter. You ought to be conducting yourself in the same way. And in fact, humility is royalty. Knowledge is power, guys, and I can do 100 push-ups right now, right? And I can let you guys know that I'm a man, that I am active, and that I am worthy, and that perhaps I'm better than you, right? Why else would I do 100 push-ups on camera for everyone to see, other than to prove myself? But I mean, I'm sure my muscles can do plenty. But what my mind has been able to construct all on its own without lifting a muscle, that's something to be studied. I am beyond powerful. If you're comparing me to the ordinary, I'm already godlike because of my wisdom. Just like all the gods of the past have been gods to us because of their wisdom. This is not blasphemous. This is just facts. So, what are you going to be doing for the rest of the week? What are you going to be doing for the rest of your life? Is it going to be the same thing you're doing for the rest of the week? We're going to switch it up at some point. Are you going to keep watching the game, or are you going to go to Barnes and Nobles and pick up this book and discipline yourself? I like I like talking about dead men because they ought to get the promotion they deserved but never got. Now me, I'm already a dead man. And that's more re- revealing, because if I live my life as somebody who's conflicted, who cannot take his mortality, who is crumbling at the fact that he knows too much, then yeah, suicide is always gonna be right there on the back of my mind. But if I'm already dead and nothing else matters, then what I'm experiencing is actually a delight. It's actually a blessing. I shouldn't be here. In fact, I am not here. I am, again, a wandering wraith. I am a beacon of light in the darkest of the night, right before dawn. What are we gonna do with this, that, and the other? I don't know, and I don't care. You guys, if you guys want to keep striving for less, if you guys want to keep trifling for things that don't matter, then by all means, you guys can keep dividing and conquering yourself. I'm inviting people into my army, into my club, into my fraternity, my brotherhood, my association. My corporation is that of liberty and freedom and just absolute resolution in your edge, in your gift, in your masculinity. If you're interested in any of these things that I just laid out for you, then by all means, join me. And you ought to not make a pact with me. You ought to not spill blood for me. You ought to not do anything that's immoral for me. Just live your life for the Lord, and we're on the same team. I don't think I can ever say anything about sinners with complete authority, because one way or another I will always fall short of the mark. But if I'm speaking today with authority, guys, it's because I have found authority in wisdom. So with that, I leave you guys. Thank you. There will be a episode on Saturday to, make up for the one we missed on Thursday last week. And we'll be back on the same program next week, okay? I do apologize for not showing up, but like I said, I was literally getting all the content I needed for the next, 9 episodes? 8, maybe. So, I think I have a good structure now. I can probably bang out the whole season. No problem. But, of course, with that being said, God bless you all. Peace.
I'm the Lizard King. I can do anything.
We come in peace, the warrior, poet, shout.
Heal with the warrior poet, spitting out the facts, artillery loaded, perfecting our craft, yeah you know we devoted. I know what I want, so I'm staying focused. You hitting up my line, it's on do not disturb. Don't need a fool who can't even back up his words. Had to burn bridges and take different roads. You might think I'm toxic, but homie, I got goals.